Hello, hello, and welcome to Weightless with Dr. Carol Penn. I am so excited to be hosting this 10-part series where we explore all things related to what it means to be weightless, what it means to be in your full vitality and joy and health. Weightless. What does it mean to be free in your mind and in your spirit? Weightless. What does it mean when your burdens have been lifted and your joy comes forth? Weightless. And I am especially excited today to welcome our superstar guest. But wait, let's take a listen to our beautiful opening theme song where we are what? We are
weightless, weightless. No matter what people say, you're full of greatness, greatness. Time you opened up your eyes, you were courageous, courageous. If only they could see you going through your paces. It's amazing. Weightless. No matter what people say, you're full of greatness. Time you open up your eyes, you walk away. Just if only they could see it going through your paces. It's amazing. Weightless. No matter what people say, you're full of greatness. Time you opened up your eyes, you were courageous. If only they could see you going through your paces. It's amazing.
Yes. So welcome. Happy Sunday. And now sit back while we have a word from our sponsor.
Good morning. Good morning. Weightless with Dr. Carol Penn is brought to you by Allshore Development of Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Allshore Development is a builder-developer creating and enhancing homes and businesses in the Jersey Shore region. Thank you for joining us this morning, and back to our host, Dr. Carol Penn.
Thank you so much, DM. We are so glad to be here, and thank you to our marvelous production team headed up by Miss Kenya. So thank you so much to Kenya and DM. As always, support, teamwork, collaboration, special gratitude, and joy. All right, you all, put your seatbelts on because you are about to meet my superstar friend, Dr. Stephanie Freeman. I'm going to bring her on because we're going to get into today's theme, and today's theme is the medicine of living in a COVID-informed world. I'm not even sure where all the conversation's going to go because this is big, this is new, this is cutting edge as we all get used to living in a COVID-informed world. Clearly, COVID's not going anywhere. Clearly, the science is evolving and it's not going anywhere. Clearly, the opportunities and the threats are here and they're not going anywhere. So I want you to sit back. I want you to relax. As always, I know that you are a lively and an engaged group. So go ahead and get those notebooks and those pens. Get ready to take your notes. But first, let's meet my superstar friend. I'm going to bring her on camera because I always love when our guests get to blush just a little bit as they listen to how truly wonderful they are. So go on, go look at her. There she is. Behold, as one of the nation's most acclaimed ICU physicians, Stephanie E Freeman Md is a board-certified critical care physician, a best-selling author, speaker, and consultant. In addition, she is the expert in helping doctors discover alternative careers in medicine. Dr. Stephanie consistently meets with physicians individually and in groups to discuss ways they can get unstuck in their careers. A compassionate, motivating, energizing, and resourceful physician, it is no wonder why Dr. Stephanie is known amongst her colleagues as the job doctor. As founder and chief medical advisor of drstephanieicu.com, Dr. Stephanie discusses real world career strategies to help physicians think outside the box regarding their careers. By sharing advice on how to find alternative careers in medicine, Dr. Stephanie helps physicians practice medicine on their own terms. Dr. Stephanie earned her medical degree from the University of Alabama School of Medicine. She completed her internal medicine residency at Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center and her critical care fellowship at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Dr. Stephanie also completed a geriatrics fellowship at Wake Forest University Baptist Medical Center. She obtained her Master's of Business Administration at Auburn University. And ladies and gentlemen, this doesn't even really begin to say it, but it gives you a little bit of a formulated capsule. Please welcome my colleague, my sister, my friend, Dr. Stephanie Freeman.
Hi, Dr. Carol. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am so excited to be here, and I'm honored to be in your presence. I feel like we could just talk forever.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, we've had that experience where, the group was going one way and we decided to go another, and we were going to meet the group, and we just got up on that rooftop and sat out there overlooking the city scenes of Atlanta and just talked.
Yes.
And it was fabulous. And it's the type of conversation where I know I stepped away feeling like my mind had been expanded and my soul had been fed. And those are the kind of conversations that I thrive on, I love. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited to welcome you here today, because I think we're going to do just that.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let's get in it. We are living in a COVID-informed world, and patients are asking questions about COVID, the virus, vaccinations all the time, every day. It is still something, right at the top of the mind, and certainly at the top of the news feed. And I know you have stories to tell because you have been up close and personal with this disease, some of the devastation of this disease, and the people across many, many states. I don't know if you can think of a story right now that you'd like to share, but I'd like to turn the floor over to you, because what has gone on in these intensive care units across our country?
Yes. The stories are true. What everybody saw on the news about, the hospitals being full and the patients is sick and the staff has been stretched thin. Luckily, we have a reprieve and things have been much better for the last couple of months. And I am grateful for that. But actually, I'm still going to work with bated breath, waiting for the next outbreak, because I'm not convinced that it's over. I'm not convinced that we are in the free and clear. And I'm just preparing myself, in the next, 6 to 8 weeks for there to be another surge to the point that it leads to increased hospitalizations. But one of the things that I try to do as a critical care physician is I really try to help the patients' families, because they are the ones that have experienced such a sense of hopelessness and helplessness when their loved ones are in the intensive care unit. And not just for COVID, it was a little different for COVID, but for all instances, we can take care of the patient. We can treat the medical condition that requires them to require intensive care. But I think what we can all do better about, and one of the things that I try to do, is to help the family not just understand the process, but to understand what to expect, because it's the unknowing and the not knowing what to expect, which is a tremendous source of distress for the families. And that is what I spend a considerable amount of time doing when I take care of my ICU patients, but especially maybe like a year ago, this year, a year ago, like last year, when we were in the midst of, we were seeing the Delta variant and that Delta surge. Yes, I was having 3, 4, and 5 family meetings every day, just to walk them through what this is going to look like for their loved one, but what also this is going to look like for them.
So, listening to you share that story and how you're dealing with the families, I'm wondering, what have you seen and what are you hearing about the phenomenon of long COVID? So you talk about prepping the family, are you prepping
Right.
them for that in some sense?
Unfortunately, in my patients, they're sick enough to make it to the intensive care unit. And remember, I'm looking at it from the standpoint before vaccines became widely spread and widely accepted. So when the patients that I took care of back, especially during the Delta surge, and even after that, were 99% of them were unvaccinated. And unvaccination plus Delta meant that you didn't leave my intensive care unit. You weren't going to survive. So it's not having a conversation about long COVID. My conversations were, if they're still alive, this is what's going to happen. But maybe 1 or 2 made it out alive, and they didn't go home. They went to long-term acute care facilities. And so that was the conversation we had. But that conversation didn't come until 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks in the process. So that is the conversations that I was having with my experience in the intensive care unit with COVID patients, especially during the Delta surge, which was so deadly.
My goodness. Yes. I can't imagine having 3 and 4 family meetings per day like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's also been such resistance to getting vaccinated and to wearing a mask. So again, you see the sickest of the sick. So you know what it's like when someone has to come in and they get admitted to ICU and they have to be placed on a ventilator. How do we encourage people to continue to get vaccinated and boosted? Because it does seem, in those that chose to do that, vast improvement, not being hospitalized, not getting as sick. How do we encourage that? How do we encourage people to mask? How do we encourage people to do the thing that they need to do for population health and for their own health?
Unfortunately, that continues to be a challenge, especially in the summer of 2022, when people are sick of COVID and the world has opened back up and every place has dropped the mask mandates, and airports are full of barefaced people and airplanes are full of barefaced people. And, it seems like people have forgotten. But I think it is important to continue to have the conversation that COVID is still real. It is still a real and present danger, and it's circulating, and the numbers are increasing. Luckily, right now, the hospitalizations are not, because that just shows that vaccinations are working. So, for those people who have been vaccinated, it does show that vaccinations are working. I heard somebody at the hospital talking about that they didn't get vaccinated and they got COVID and they, did okay. And somebody was like, but you were out for 2 weeks. How is that okay? You're out sick for 2 weeks. And then he was saying, yeah, but now it's mostly, vaccinated people that are getting infected. And I still want to stress to people that yes, you can get COVID if you're vaccinated. Yes, you can get COVID if you're vaccinated and boosted. But the question you had to ask yourself is, did you die though? And if you're vaccinated and boosted and you got COVID and did not die, that meant the vaccine did its job. If you got COVID and you're vaccinated and boosted and you didn't end up in the hospital, it meant that the vaccine did its job. So I think it is important that we continue to have these conversations, especially in light of the fact that the vaccine manufacturers are now adjusting the vaccine to be more specific to the Omicron variant. So the issue is going to be, are we yet to get another booster? For this upcoming, in the next couple of months. But, I like to tell people, if they ask my opinion, to consider masking, and definitely mask in crowded areas. Definitely mask in crowded areas. So we just got to keep talking about it because people are still actively getting infected.
Well, I loved it when we were masking, because one of the things I noticed, I didn't get my usual number of colds. So usually I would get, 2 colds over the winter months. I didn't, for 2 years, I didn't get those colds. So not only was it protective against COVID, it was protective against, the brand X variants that go around during the winter months and whatnot. What flu? I didn't, have any of that, nor did I diagnose any of it. So I saw a decline overall in the usual suspects, let alone the COVID.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated the masking from that point of view. And personally, I've chosen to continue to wear a mask in crowded areas. To me, it just makes sense. And I like being well. And if I can have back 5 to 10 more days of wellness without the usual winter cold or whatnot, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And what the general public doesn't realize is that, okay, COVID is here, but flu is back. And now monkeypox is circulating. And guess what? The precautions that we use to protect against COVID, like you said, Dr. Carol, protect against flu, and it also is going to protect against monkeypox. So, like, I'd like to tell everybody, I'm like, hey, keep your guard up. It's not about not enjoying life, but wearing a mask for a couple of hours throughout the course of a day, it is not a burden. It is really not a burden, and it can do so much to protect your health.
Yes, I like to think of it as flipping it. It's giving me opportunity to have more life, so that when I relax, I can really relax, because I know I've done everything I possibly could do to increase my likelihood of safety, my likelihood of being well on more days compared to previous years. So I like increasing the odds and doing things that increase the odds in a favorable way. And masking, social distancing, the hand washing, being aware, a little bit more thoughtful, has certainly done that. And I see it again as a person who's out there with the people diagnosing and treating. I see it with the people who choose to do that. So I want to encourage people to be hopeful.
Yeah.
And to be thoughtful. What is going to keep me well? That's the question that I invite people to ask themselves. What's going to keep me well? Turn off the TV, put down, whatever you're reading, turn off the radio, and think about it for yourself and decide, so you have to ask yourself, well, what are your goals? What are you trying to do?
Yes.
All right. So now let's keep going with this medicine of living in a COVID-informed world. So a lot of things came along with this COVID, just as we were driven inside and we had to get more familiar with technology. What are some of the things that, COVID-informed world, I don't want to repeat that again? And what are some of the things that you're like, yeah, these are some of the things that I'd like to keep?
You know what? I think the one thing that I don't ever want to repeat in a COVID informed world was that initial shock of when the entire world stopped. Boom, the entire world stopped, and our way of life as we knew it changed, and we didn't know how to adjust. And I never want to go back to that particular feeling. And I think that living in a COVID informed world, we've realized now that the way things were will never be the way things will be. And now we've seen that in these last 3 or 4 months, even, that things are changing at an exponential rate. And I think one of the things that we have got to learn, and we talked about this earlier before the show, Dr. Carol, is how to cope. How to cope with sudden life changes that we have no control over. How do we cope with that? How do we cope with the feelings of helplessness and hopelessness and being out of control and our movements being restricted and all of this? How do we cope, and what are some not just coping mechanisms that we can implement, but what are some real time life mechanisms that we can implement in terms of, hey, what do I have to do if I can't go into work anymore? Or what if I have to do if my job disappears? Or what do I have to do if I am expected now to telecommute? What do we have to do if more supply chains are disruptive? How can we be better prepared for the next big thing, even in the midst of not being fully out of this big thing? And I think those are some of the questions that we're going to have to ask ourselves, because this ain't the last pandemic we're going to go through. All of us doctors know that COVID is just one virus that hopped over, from the animal host to the human host. There's a lot of them that are waiting. Monkeypox is now in countries that is no longer endemic to. I saw a report that polio is now being detected in the wastewater again. So polio is circulating around. So we're going to be having more of these infectious disease outbreaks, but how can we cope? What are our individual coping mechanisms, and what are the survival strategies that we can implement so that we're not in so much despair when our lifestyle has to be changed just a little bit?
That's true. That's true. We did see a lot of coming unhinged, even with a slight change in the lifestyle. People just not having good coping skills. Well, and this also happened in the context against the backdrop of our current medical system and the third-party reimbursement system, i.e. health insurance. What do you see in the current medical system that needs to change? Because the COVID global pandemic certainly uncovered many of the imbalances in the medical system.
I've always told people, or at least I used to tell my mama, because that's who I talk to all the time. I said to her, I said, every year between November and April, during flu season, hospitals are operating at capacity, even then before COVID. And I said, it's not going to take much to tip us over the edge. We were already struggling before COVID, Dr. Carol. We were already struggling with shortages of personnel. We were already struggling with the perceived lack of resources for certain patient populations. And note I said perceived, because the stuff is out there. It's just all about how it's allocated. We were already struggling with that. We already knew that we had no public health infrastructure in the United States of America. We already knew that our public health infrastructure was just a series of patchwork of health departments that was governed by individual states. So we already knew that. The COVID pandemic just blew the lid off of it. And I will say this. If we have another surge like we've had prior, the whole healthcare system is going to collapse. It's going to collapse because we don't have the staff. We don't have the staff. Nurses quit. They went into travel nursing, or they just quit. People have left the profession. Physicians who could leave left. People left clinical medicine because of this. And we are at the verge of I think we're at the verge of our healthcare system collapsing. And I think that we need a major overhaul, not just in the healthcare system as we know it, because we know, Dr. Carol, that the healthcare system as we know it is the end game. That's the end game. There's so much that happens before a person needs hospital-based care, and that whole public health infrastructure in the United States of America is non-existent. We have so much work to do in terms of addressing the social determinants of health in order to decrease people's chances of needing healthcare in the first place for things that can be prevented. And so there's this whole continuum of things in the way we deliver health and care in the United States of America that, number one, we know has been broken. We know that it has malfunctioned. This COVID pandemic just exposed it for what it is. This COVID pandemic has stressed the health and care system of society to where we're extremely fragile. Anything else that happens is going to tip us over the edge, and the whole health and care system in the United States of America really completely needs to be redone. It really completely needs to be redone because what we have right now is not working.
It truly isn't. It is, I can't even call it a patchwork quilt, because a patchwork quilt, even though it's patchwork, there is some cohesion to it. It'll still serve as a quilt. We are at that place where it's not going to be any cohesion. It's just going to dismantle. It's more like a threadbare quilt. And it's very, very weak in places. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on, and again, in this COVID-informed world, what a new and different healthcare system might look like.
The new and different healthcare system would look like a care system. It would look like a care system, a care delivery system. See, what we have right now, Dr. Carol, is something that I've termed the medical industrial complex, because that's what it is. It's a big conglomerate of people and organizations and regulations and things that don't necessarily have to do with delivery of care, but it has to do more about the making of profit. at the
Mm.
expense of the patient-physician relationship. So right now in the United States of America, we have more of a medical industrial complex that is run by the people who are really making the money, the insurance companies, the huge healthcare organizations. And let's really talk about the people who hold the purse strings, which are the private equity companies. So you have private equity companies who have bought out hospitals, who have bought out corporate medical groups. Okay. You have insurance companies that have their hands in all of the lobbying and the political networks. You have the pharmaceutical companies who do the same. You have the pharmacy benefits managers. You have the primary care and acute care and post-acute care and home health, and you have this big conglomerate of things. And at every step of the way, every organization, every interaction, every kind of connection, the people are asking the question not of how can we deliver the best care to those who need it. The question in the healthcare industrial complex is how can we make the most profit? And what they've done is they've monetized the most important aspect, the most important asset, and I hate to even describe it as such, is the physician patient relationship.
Mm.
The physician patient relationship is something that is holy. It's holy. We took an oath, you know? Physicians are holy people in the eyes of God. You
Mhm.
know, one of Jesus's disciples was a physician. So
Oh,
we
yes.
get a holy relationship, which is governed by our internal code of ethics, our oath. It is governed by uh, medical societies, which are governed by law, which state that physicians and the physician patient relationship cannot be certain things. Physicians cannot do certain things. It has a it is a highly was a highly respected and a highly protected relationship and interaction, which was designed to do what? Protect the patient and protect society. So, what has happened in this whole medical industrial complex is that a holy and sacred relationship between a physician and patient has been productized with the sake of extracting as much profit in that particular interaction. In order for the patient and all patients and all people of society, because we need to start looking at people not just as patients, but as people who at some point will be patients.
Mhm.
In order for us to change the health and care system in the United States of America, we need to make it a care system in which we truly put the needs of the people first. People before profits. Physician patient relationship before profits. And I think, I hate to say this, it's going to take a massive unraveling of what we have and a rebuilding of what needs to become.
Wow. Wow. You have said so much. Do you see in this medical industrial complex a place, though, for the emerging, let's say, concierge doctor, or, that small practice where that patient doctor relationship can once again be sacred, can once again be holy, and can those kind of practices thrive?
They
In-
absolutely can, because that is what people want. People want their physicians.
Mhm.
People want that. So I know a couple of physicians who are doing direct primary care. I know physicians who are, doing direct primary care, charging minimal fees, helping their patients get testing at competitive rates, get whatever they need at competitive rates, because they've been able to develop a network. Physicians have been able to actually take the time to advocate for their patients and have developed networks of other physicians who are like-minded. So the thing that's going to save all of this is the reestablishment of the sacredness of the physician-patient relationship. Because I tell everybody, what you need is a good primary care physician, because that good primary care physician is the person who can and will advocate for you throughout and help you manage this whole medical industrial complex. So there is a role for a direct primary care physician. There is a role for that, and that movement is really growing and expanding.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to seeing more of the shift occur. Because right now, what is going on, it's tragic because the patient always is the one who gets lost in the shuffle. And right now, we see so many of our colleagues succumbing to depression, psychoses, becoming suicidal, and dying by suicide. So, the canary at the mouth of the cave and the canary is dying. Well, that's supposed to be the big warning signal. Look, you all need to get out. You all need to shift. And is anybody heeding the warning?
Nobody in the medical industrial complex is heeding the warning, because this big complex, you got people pulling the strings, and the people pulling the strings in this whole complex are the people who are extracting all the money out of it, extracting all the money, loading the institutions with debt, taking their profits elsewhere. But you know what? Who's heeding the call? Physicians. And physicians are opting out of traditional employment that ties their hands. And that's one of the things that I do as a locums doctor. And I help other physicians transition to locums. What I mean by that, independent contract work that allows you to have more freedom and more flexibility in terms of how you work, and not necessarily be under the constraints and the confines of a traditional employment contract. And I help physicians transition to this line of work so that physicians can, number one, breathe. Let's get up out of these oppressive employment situations and healthcare organizations that really treat us as hamsters on a hamster wheel. Let's get off the hamster wheel, and let's breathe. Let's have some breathing room. Let's continue to practice clinical medicine in the way you want to practice it, so you can continue to have some income while you listen to what has been told to you about how to practice medicine in a way that satisfies and soothes your soul. And we're seeing more and more physicians opting out of traditional medicine in terms of being employed physicians for whatever and doing their own thing. And I think that it's this movement that is going to change things, because physicians are the ones who have been saying for decades, this is what's going on. This is what our research has shown. This is what our patients need. And physicians are going to be the one who are going to lead the way.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because it really is a sacred calling.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much opportunity to be centered and walk in your purpose in life. I think it is one of the professions that, by its original definition, says walk in your calling, to be a light in the world, to call people together to find their own healing. Mm-hmm. And really, so the person becomes their own light and their own pathway, and that what we do as their sacred partners is we become their advocate, we become their mirror, we become the lightning rod for the healing to occur in them.
That's right.
And, so in that way, we are the medicine, and the juxtaposition of being in relationship, that intimate relationship. I love it so much because
Mhm.
you can be in intimate relationship with people, and it is a sacred bond, and it's a
Mhm.
wonderful bond. I had
Mhm.
a great moment in practice this week when someone told me that she was seeing someone, and she was so excited because I knew this person also, and I had also been with this person through a difficult time in their life, and she was just so excited because she knew I knew the backstory.
Mhm.
And it was like, and I knew in a way, she wanted me to give the blessing, to give the approval. And of course I did, because I said, "You look happy. Are you happy?" And so to see the light in her eyes, it was like, that was worth a whole lot of other things that
Yes,
go on,
yes,
that,
yes.
no, this is way above my pay grade. But, really, because in that moment, I knew that what she was seeking in terms of her own healing was all the more possible because she was in joy, she was in love, and she was being witnessed and acknowledged and accepted for who and how she was. And I said,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's just going to be so much easier now to be her doctor."
Yeah.
Yeah, because she was motivated, all of a
Yes,
sudden, it's like, "Oh, yeah, no, I am gonna take that walk. I wanna have
yes,
energy to be with my love."
yes.
And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's
Mhm.
what's healing is about. When a person can be witnessed by you, and you can give that encouragement, and that your belief in them can be greater than any moment of doubt that they might have in
Yes,
that
yes.
case." Yeah. So that was my happiness, and my own happiness in the whole week, and feeling my purpose in life was sparked. But you know what? It is time to pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. And when we come back from hearing from our sponsors, we will continue with this fantabulous conversation that we're having with Dr. Stephanie Freeman. And I hope that you've been noting her information as it scrolls across the bottom of the screen, so you can reach out to her, so you can email her. Maybe there is a question or two that you have, and you can certainly find out about all the wonderful things that she is up to in the world.
Weightless with Dr. Carol Penn is brought to you by Allshore Development of Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Allshore Development is a builder developer creating and enhancing homes and businesses in the Jersey Shore region. Thank you for joining us this morning, and back to our host, Dr. Carol Penn.
So it's now time for us to continue. All right. So we are living in this COVID informed world, and I can't help it. I've got to be current because there are certain things that are happening in the highest law of the land that impact us directly as practicing doctors. What light can you shed, or what is your opinion about the changes that we are now facing? Because I think all of this, everything that's happening, is really a part of this COVID informed world, including the recent Supreme Court rulings.
Yes, so, I of course am not happy about the reversal of Roe versus Wade as a critical care physician. I have seen women die from complications of pregnancy and childbirth. I have seen that. Um, so I'm not happy about it. I wish I could say I was surprised, but we know this has been in the works for the last 40 to 50 years. Didn't just happen overnight. Um, Unfortunately, I think that women will die. I think that we will see more deaths of women. Um, the United States of America already does an abysmal job in caring for pregnant women. We have the highest rates of maternal morbidity and mortality in the developed world. Black women 3 times more likely to die complications of pregnancy and childbirth than white women in this country. And as a matter of fact, Black women in America are more likely to die from complications of pregnancy and childbirth than in some developing nations. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of that. I think we're going to see more deaths of women. I do believe that. But what do I think we physicians can do? I think the main thing that we physicians can do, especially, my colleagues that deal with women's health, my family medicine colleagues, obstetrics and gynecology colleagues, even pediatricians, anybody that deals with women's health and the health of women and girls, let's just try to resist the urge to feel like throwing in the towel, because I feel like a lot of physicians are at that point in which they're throwing up their hands and wanting to throw in the towel. And I think if we can just kind of resist that urge to do that. The other thing that I think would be really important for physicians at this time is to really engage in some radical self-care, because what's going on externally is really nothing that we caused as individuals or even collectively for the most part. We didn't cause the gun violence. We didn't cause the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Mm-hmm. And I think we should try not to fall into the traps of thinking that we individually have to fix everything. We can collectively do some things, but I think it's important right now to engage in some radical self-care so that we won't get discouraged and we won't throw in the towel, and we can continue to provide care for our patients in the best ways that we can, and to really keep going on and showing up for our patients and ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderfully said. And on that note, the importance of radical self-care, because I think there's going to be some of that radical self-care information shared, and something that you have occurring coming up at the end of August. Could you tell us about a very special conference that you are hosting?
Yes, so I am hosting the Council of Black Women Physicians. I am hosting our inaugural conference. This is an organization that I have developed, and it really came out of a conversation had in one of our Facebook communities of Black women physicians. And somebody was like, you know what? We just need to have another conference. We just need to get together and network and just come together. And we need to do this, and this. And then the person who posted it was like, yeah, but who's going to do it? So I was like, I'll do it. So what I'm hosting, the Council of Black Women Physicians, and this is going to be a wonderful conference in which I'm so excited that the marvelous Dr. Carol Penn is going to be opening up for us. But here's the thing that, I've been dealing with my spiritual counselor, and the Lord shared with me, is that if you can heal the healers, you can heal the land. If you can heal the people who have been mandated by God to be healers, you can heal the land. So what I want to do is to bring us Black women physicians together, because we have dealt with a lot over these last 2 years. COVID has disproportionately affected Black people. We always are dealing with racism, sexism, you name it, we're dealing with it. So I'm saying, let's bring Black women physicians together just to love and hug on each other. We haven't seen or hugged or touched each other in 2 years. We've done everything via Zoom. Some people we've never met. We're friends online. So let's bring us all together and let's focus on radical self-care with meditation. Dr. Kara's going to talk to us about meditation, and we're going to talk about mindset, because that is key. And then we're going to talk about our money, our finances, because this, COVID, people's finances took a hit, and now the economy was on the upswing, and now we're back on the downswing. Finances. We're going to talk about updates in clinical medicine. And then, most importantly, we're going to talk about a mission. Because once we heal ourselves and start the healing process, then we're going to talk about how we can go forth and heal the land and heal our community. So, this conference is going to be August 26th, 27th, and 28th. And it's also going to be available online. It will be live in Houston, Texas. And so for those of you who are interested, there is the website.
I can't wait. It is going to be fantastic. It is going to be fantastic. And about how many are you planning to gather?
I would like to say as many as possible. But whoever's going to come is going to come.
Oh.
And yeah, so this is the inaugural conference. And so I'm just trying to get the word out. And as many people that come who are going to come can come. And everybody who comes is going to be blessed.
Now, are tickets already available?
Yes, tickets are available on that website. You can go to the website and purchase the tickets. And we will be offering CME credits. So that means you could either use your CME funds to come to the conference or use write this off as a business expense. So we are going to be offering CME credits.
Wonderful. And are people outside the medical profession able to come if they're, let's say, a pharmacist?
Absolutely. You're absolutely welcome to come, but just know what the focus is going to be.
Yes. But, I just can't imagine what's going to happen when people wake up on Monday morning, when they have gone through a transformation, when they've experienced a healing. Because we are out here as Black women physicians, I would say moving mountains and creating daily miracles in spite of, because of, in the midst of. Now imagine what will happen when our minds are really right.
Yes. Yes.
Imagine what will happen when we have really allowed ourselves to rest.
Mm-hmm. Imagine what will happen if we could just be and not do. Imagine what will happen, Dr. Carol, if we didn't have to code switch for a day.
Oh,
That we just didn't have to code switch, that we could just revel in our Blackness. And everybody will be like, oh, honey, we love you. We know what you mean. We get it. We understand it.
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to really be able to take off those layers, to shed those burdens, to become weightless.
Yes.
To become weightless for those 3 days, and each day feel yourself lighter and lighter and lighter. People are going to want to have it every weekend. Be like,
okay.
I need to find my little oasis of true rest and spirit. Friday night, 7 p.m. till Sunday afternoon about 1.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because in these times, and this is what my spiritual counselor is telling me, in these times, the resistance is in the form of our rest. The resistance is in the form of our peace. The resistance is in the form of our joy, because if you're rested and you're peaceful and you're joyful, the channels open up and your directions flow. So that's what we're gonna concentrate on. We're gonna concentrate helping us get that rest, get that peace, and get that joy, and then we will get the direction.
Wow. Well, there's a wonderful practice that I might have to share at the conference. It's called Yoga Nidra, and it translates to the sleep of yoga. And it's a deeply restful meditative state. It's actually a form of imagery that's used by whoever is facilitating or leading it that takes you through being able to relax each area of your body. And done well, 20 minutes of a good nidra is equivalent to a 3-hour nap.
Whew, I need to learn how to do that.
Yes. Well, I swear to God, it saved me through night float because I was never kind of an all-night girl anyway.
Okay.
And, needed to find some tools and techniques that would allow me to survive that, where you're basically up for 2 weeks straight. And it is that what you said, the resistance is in the rest. The victory is in the rest. Because we make a lot of not well-founded decisions when we're off that deep end, right?
Yes.
When we're exhausted. So I really want to leave our wonderful viewing and listening audience with this idea that the resistance is in the rest. Taking rest for the sake of rest. And learning how to make that a part of your revolution. It's like, oh no, I am going to rest. It's what did you say earlier? You got in the bed? And it's
For
what I
today.
said. Yes. I just got stretched out on the bed to give that rest. And it is so beautiful, I think, living in this COVID-informed world, that we understand what it means to allow ourselves to rest. I think we get overwhelmed with decision fatigue.
Yes.
And we must remember, and in some cases, I think for the first time, learn how to rest. So, Dr. Stephanie, all I can say is I am so much looking forward to this conference. I hope it is the first of many, and I hope there's a lot of messaging that goes on and reverberates out throughout the coming years about being a part of this council. We're going to get ready to wrap up for this time. And I hope that you will come back, because I have a feeling there's a lot more that you and I can talk about.
There's a lot more that we can talk about. So I'm call me anytime, Dr. Carol.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephanie. I'm going to play us out because we have learned and we have come full cycle on being what? Weightless. And we will see you next Sunday. And thank you again to my special guest, Dr. Stephanie Freeman.
Weightless, weightless. No matter what people say, you're full of greatness. Greatness. Time you opened up your eyes, you were courageous. If only they could see you going through your paces. It's amazing. Weightless. No matter what people say, you're full of greatness. Time you open up your eyes, you walk away. Just if only they could see it going through your paces. It's amazing. Weightless.